Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Rosie here, and I play Dead by Daylight so you don't have to. This, my friends, is an interesting read. Okay? This is one of those things, this is one of those instances, bro, where you're gonna see Rosie, do a little, do a little down the middle kind of playing here, because this is a patch that I actually have high hopes for. Well, not exactly this patch itself, but like the future. Reading these particular patch notes gives me some hope for the future. Okay, and you might be thinking, oh well, Rosie, they're putting that bad MMR system, the 2 and 2 MMR, they're putting that shit in there. Well, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Okay. So let's just go ahead and read this. We're back with another developer update, a series of posts where we go into detail on some upcoming changes to Dead by Daylight. Okay, I want to skip MMR and cover that last. Okay, I'm gonna do Pinhead really quick. Okay, Pinhead is being buffed because of course he is. They make the killer shit in the PTB. This is a common pattern. The character is getting buffed because he was shit in the PTB. Okay? You'll see other people sugarcoat it and go, oh, he has potential, bro. Yeah, by the time you buff this guy enough to where he lives up to that potential, yeah, he's not even the same character he was in the PTB anymore. So yeah, the character was shit in the PTB, as they always are. So, I'm thrilled to see so much excitement for Pinhead in the PTB. We've been watching and read feedback very closely, but that means final continue to monitor his performance as we do with all killers, blah, 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 blah. First, we polished the way the chains spawn to make them perform more consistently. We fixed an issue that would cause chains to spawn behind obstacles and corners and immediately break as soon as they would connect. Okay? So, this possibly was an underlooked reason as to why the chains were breaking so fast, that they were actually appearing behind things where they'd snap, like, instantly. But that being said, I don't know. Like, it's hard to see every possible angle from some of the footage. I mean, maybe if we go back and watch some of his other games, we could see instances of that bug taking place. And then additionally, if a chain fails to spawn at a suitable place, the system will now attempt to spawn another chain much sooner. If a chain is broken by the environment or by Pinhead himself, a new chain will spawn considerably faster. These changes will make chains much more effective in tight areas with lots of obstacles. A big line of text like that combined with this complex power only on paper, that doesn't do a lot. We have to actually get in there and see that for ourselves. This is what they're saying it's going to do. That's the intention. But how often are these things actually accurate? How often are these things actually right? Hardly ever. So we'll see if that is what the intention is lived out when we actually get to playing this guy on Tuesday. Okay, so I'm not too impressed with that as I read it, but hopefully it's better than it sounds on paper. We've also simplified the way the chain hunt works. On the PTB, the number of chains that would spawn during the hunt would depend on the number of survivors. Instead, the hunt will now always spawn a cluster of 3, with each chain appearing 3 seconds apart, with an increasing interval between the clusters of remaining survivors. Okay, this will keep the hunt feeling meaningful without getting out of hand as survivors die. So basically, he gets weaker as survivors die. Okay, except with an increasing interval, but maybe he gets stronger. I don't know. We'll have to just see that from the survivor's POV. This is a character you definitely have to play as and against in order to fully understand how he works, which is good. More killers should be designed like that. They shouldn't be designed so simple where you play the killer and you know exactly what to do as the survivor. Finally, deciding when to solve the lament configuration is something we want to leave up to you. That's a fucking issue, dude. The fact that they're still not completely solving the issue with this box is a problem. However, keeping it forever shouldn't be ideal. In the PTB, the survivor carrying the box would have a chain spawn and attempt to latch onto them every few seconds while they were interacting with something. This would slow your progress down, but could be a worthwhile trade-off for preventing chain hunts entirely, or changing the lament configuration to only pause the timers of the other survivors, but not the carrier. This means if the person holding the box neglects it for too long, a chain hunt will start for them only. This chain hunt is in addition to the occasional chains that spawn while interacting with something, making it very difficult to ignore. This doesn't help. Okay, this simply doesn't help unless Pinhead goes out of his way to find that one guy. I don't think the devs understand that this game lasts 3 to 5 minutes when it's being played right. That trade-off is all they fucking need to secure Advantage State. Once Advantage State is secured, survivors can do whatever they want. They can solve the lament configuration. They can go dilly-dallying in the corner. They can get every totem. They can never be found. They can do whatever they want. Basically the whole time, but definitely when they hit Advantage State. So this is not going to help him. This change right here. The box is still going to get held and held hostage by anybody good to negate the chain hunts on 3 survivors. That cuts down his passive 4v1 to an extreme degree and negates a cross-map teleport that he gets. Okay? In exchange for chain hunt on 1 guy. Okay? In advantage state, that's very good. So, they are definitely not helping him in terms of people holding the box hostage. I predict that gets changed again. Hopefully. It needs to just say, as after a certain time, he gets the teleport, and then, or chain hunt, like, he gets to, like, teleport to the guy with the box. And then once he teleports, chain should spawn and hold the guy in place. And then he gets a free hit, which knocks the Lament configuration to the ground, so he picks it up and gets a free chain hunt on everybody. That's what it should be. But since it's not that, survivors still get the easy win on this exchange. We got a few more changes, so we'll go lightning round. Tweak the gateway placements, so it'll be easier to match with multiple 4s. This will prevent you. Okay, so just tweak the aim. Added a brief immunity period to change after being unhooked for 3 seconds. This will prevent a survivor who was just unhooked from being chained before they can move. I don't. His power's bad with or without that. Added a maximum control time for gateway, 6 seconds. The Cenobite's power is meant to be fast-paced and used to chase, not to be placed somewhere and wait. Okay. Well, the thing I see people using it for is to monitor the map. Throw it at a gen and then quickly teleport back. I don't really see the use of sitting there and waiting for it to, like, sitting there and then waiting. I really don't see the use for that. Maybe like a brief mind game or something, but like 6 seconds is definitely all you would need to actually hit a mind game. So I don't really know what they're trying to prevent with that, but Add a brief cooldown to solve the interaction, prevent spamming 1 second. Spamming the interaction would give the killer way too many notifications. Increase the blood points for the Cenobite score event across the board. Okay. Lower than anticipated. Okay, so they're going to continue to monitor his performance. Okay. And then they're still trying to fix these fucking dead hard issues that are still happening. Okay, so that's just a minor thing. So, Pinhead, we gotta play him. It's time for him to get in the game. It's far too speculative. His power, this is the worst job they've done at actually explaining a power in, like, a very long time. We just gotta go in and get a feel for this guy. I'm still thinking mid-tier. That's where it looks like he's gonna end up. But that being said, better than Trickster. It looks like he has potential. Okay, so we'll see if he actually can live up to it. Let's go to MMR. This is the most important change of this patch. For a while now, we've been running tests on skill-based matchmaking, which uses ratings to match you with other players rather than ranks. Uses ratings to match you with other players rather than ranks. Each killer you play as has a separate rating, allow you to play each killer at a level you're comfortable at. In the most recent test, exceeded our expectations, and we'll be rolling the system out indefinitely with the 5.20 update. The recent skill-based matchmaking test resulted in fairer matches across the board for players of all skill levels, especially low to mid-skilled players. High-skilled players would see the most variance in their matches due to the low number of players with high ratings, though their matches would still be more consistent compared to rank-based matchmaking. During peak hours, 99% of matches formed were what we consider reasonably balanced, with your odds of escaping a kill or killing a survivor varying between plus minus 25% of the average. Better yet, 75% of matches fell within the plus minus 5% range. This is a huge step up in the rank system, where 99% of matches saw a 45% variation and 75% of matches... Okay, so that's a bunch of math. Basically, what's taking place is that it's more consistent, okay? While matches were fair, matchmaking remained about the same. Times remained about the same. Skill-based matchmaking also allows us to collect more detailed statistics for our design team to work with, seeing how a perk or power performs among the top 5% of players. This data will allow us to make more meaningful tweaks and balanced decisions in the future. Okay? So, let's understand what's happening here. Okay? What we are acknowledging right now is that the bad MMR that was just tested just got in. Let's not forget that in the last test, MMR was fucking working, if you remember correctly. Okay? If you were at high MMR, you know that it was actually working. And people, the survivors you were playing against were insanely strong. Insanely strong teams. Okay? And that's, those games that I played where I believe I went 3-2 at high MMR with twins was my record. So I had a winning record at high MMR. Okay, with a semi-viable character. So I think that makes sense. I went 3-2 at high MMR. Pretty good. I think I did pretty good. It is likely that it would have stayed roughly about even. My guess is the losses would start to pick up. Yeah, if I continued to play, but that's how I did. And then in the second test, what happened was you would start to see more consistently at a high MMR ranking. You cannot tell me I was not high MMR with the Trickster after 2+ hours of gameplay, nothing but 4Ks. If I wasn't at high MMR at that point, I definitely should have been. And that was an error with the system. Okay? So, what's actually going on here, ladies and gentlemen, is that they are dumping a system in the game that is knowingly not working correctly. If you remember, the 2-2 MMR was essentially, okay, 2 players are bad, 2 players are good. That means the killer gets 2 weak links in the game that they can potentially capitalize off of, okay? Basically, what's happening here, and like that doesn't mean the system will never give you those games where your MMR is you're gonna get fucked. What's happening here is the devs are trying to skip a step, okay? If you put a fully functioning MMR system in Dead by Daylight right now that works, okay, and the average MMR of the survivors team equals the killers with no like variation, like all the survivors are equal to the killers MMR. Okay, if you put that in the game, killer's unwinnable at high MMR. Killer's absolutely fucking unwinnable. Okay, and we all know this. We all fucking know this. The devs just they either apparently they know it, but they don't care. Like I don't know why people continue to say that they don't care, that they won't do it. Why would they have said we will be able to see how a perk or power performs among the top 5% of players if they didn't care? Okay? Now, it's possible that they're lying. And even likely that they're lying. Do I believe that they're going to magically just start balancing the game around the top 5% of the player base? No, not really. Of course not. That's way too good to be true. Of course I don't think that. I don't trust these devs for a fucking second. I don't trust Olmo for a fucking second. I don't think he's actually going to do that, but it's here. If they weren't at least considering tweakling their fingers or getting their feet wet in the idea, why would they have wrote that there? Like, Scott Junn still doesn't think they're going to do it. Why? It's right there. It's written there. Now, again, it's possible they're lying, even likely that they're lying. But this is just me being hopeful. It's written here. They want to see how things do at the top 5% of players. Perk or power, and that extends beyond perk or power. It goes to tiles and objective speed and map size. It goes to everything. How is all of the game working together around the top percent of player base? And basically, you can see that in this new MMR system. Okay? The reason that we are putting the 2-2 one that is less consistent than the previous one they tested is because they are trying to skip Killer Apocalypse. If you all remember Killer Apocalypse, it's that the killers will go in and lose every fucking game with no chance of winning. And that is not an option for these devs. Okay? As good as it sounded on paper to for the true balance of the game to get discovered, the devs were never going to let Killer Apocalypse happen. They were never going to willingly go in there and let that happen, okay? But remember, we now have 2 MMR systems. Both tested, both working. The fake one and then the real one. The real one was the one that they tested 2 ago, and then the last one that was tested was the one they're going to throw in the game, okay? Basically, they can get the data they need off of that previous system. It's just going to take a bit longer. They will get those matches eventually. Your individual killer experience is not going to get crushed as a result. That's their idea. At least that's what it sounds like their idea is. It sounds like they're trying to skip the Killer Apocalypse sets by having a less consistent but functional MMR system that is improved upon the ranking system to get better information about balance. Not that they don't know that the game is survivor sided. Again, I think that's obvious to anyone paying attention, but like, The fact that we're going to actually get more consistent data of high MMR solo queue players playing against these weak killers and winning consistently. That's what's going to happen here. Okay? If they're actually balancing around the top 5% of players, that's what you're going to see. Now, again, these are the Dead by Daylight devs. Remember, these are the same group of people that promised us an early game mechanic over a year ago that we didn't get. So if you ask me right now, do I believe we're going to get good balance after this patch? No, of course I don't. I'm not a fucking fool. But, like, hope is all we have. Hope is all we have. Hope that these guys are finally going to do it right. Hope that they're going to take the system and do something positive with it. Okay? It's not founded on any reason. It is founded in faith in a man that doesn't deserve it. Faith in a design team that doesn't deserve it. But it's there. It's in the notes. I'm not saying I want the game the game is going to get perfect balance. But, if we could get 10 viable killers within the next year and a half, do you know how fantastic that would be? Through core changes? That would be fantastic for high level. That would be fantastic for the game. At what point does bullying the same characters over and over again get old? If you want more variation at high level, you have to buff the killers and nerf the survivors. Nerfing the survivors comes first. You do not touch individual killers until survivors are nerfed first. That's the important thing. You have to hit this core first. You have to start with the core. Nothing else matters but the core and 115 killer. Once you get those keystone characters, the mid tiers, once they are viable, then you are done with core, and then you can start talking about the killers to buff after seeing where they are in a new core, in a better core. Okay? You can take this step by step by step by step, and it doesn't have to take 5 years. It really doesn't. Because once you do this and balance around these keystones, you will drastically lower the number of reworks that you have to do. I promise. I absolutely 100% promise. There will always be variation. There will always be disparity in the power level, but that's how power creep works. It's a fluctuating cycle of the meta. What's good? Characters fall out of favor, fair characters rise up. That's the natural power disparity, and that's what power creep is. Okay? It's not that we don't want this in the game. It's just that the 2 viable characters with 2 semi-viable characters is unacceptable. And because they said this right here in the patch notes, we can now hold them accountable if they don't do it. We can now bitch if they don't do it. Because they said they would. They said they would try to do it. Do I think they're gonna do it? No. Like I know what planet we live on. I'm not in some la-la land. But up until this point, the devs have gotten everything in terms of these dev updates about MMR absolutely 100% right. They have ignored the Scoots of the world. They have ignored the Interacts of the world who kept saying individualized MMR is a bad idea because they knew it wasn't. The devs are ignoring the comp scene, in quotes, and going forward with an MMR based around the actual game itself because that's the right thing to do. They are, on paper, so far, they are making every correct decision. But the next steps are the most important. You need to start putting your money where your mouth is. The next few balance changes will show you if they're full of shit or if they mean what's in this patch and what's in these patch notes. This is a very good set of patch notes. Even though the MMR system that's bad is coming into the game, they are implying that they are going to work around it. They are only going to work around those 5% of the player base. Those games where the top players actually do play against each other in pubs. Those are the games they seem to want to be looking at. Okay? They don't say that here, but they say around the top 5% of players. That implies when they go against each other. So, it seems that they want to take the game in a not more competitive direction, but they want to fix the balance issues that are severely impacting the experience of the game. They understand the obtainable skill cap of Dead by Daylight. If you do not think the skill cap of Survivor needs to be raised higher, I don't know what the fuck game you are playing. Survivor is brain dead. The only people that are struggling with Survivor are either bad or in solos. And that's it. There's no excuse other than that. Okay? And even then, if you have 4 competent survivors in solo with genuine good awareness, that is a challenging match for the killer. And that's what MMR will tell you. That is what MMR will tell you. If you start playing these like top percent players and then you find out they were all solo, it's not going to feel like a solo match. So this, I am pleased with this particular update. This gives me a slight optimism about the future. I really think we might be going in a better direction. Not the direction I would want the game to go, because I would want to take the game even further in a competitive direction. But if we can get rid of 25% of the shit in terms of the balance that makes the game so bad, do you know what kind of better experience we would have if we could knock out the map RNG, get rid of the long wall jungle gyms, get rid of these fucking the fucking tiles that are such a pain in the ass. If we could like make every tile have some kind of mind game to most of the killers on the roster, do you know how Dead by Daylight would feel? It would feel like a much better game, just getting rid of those map sizes. It's these little things that would have such a massive impact on Dead by Daylight. But again, the top 5% of players, I mean, I would argue that you could find out most of this information by looking at the top 20%, by looking at even the top 25% of the player base. It doesn't even need to be this high. Most of the issues that we want addressed, it doesn't take the top 5% of players to exploit. Okay? So, I don't know, bro. I mean, Scoot says that they're still not going to do it. I don't know, dude. It's still in the patch notes. They're still discussing it. They're still talking about wanting better stats to balance around. I don't know, like, if you just think they're lying or they're kidding, but, like, they have been consistently talking about bringing MMR in the name of better stats, in the name of better balance. Because they want the matches more fair. They want to have better data. And, like, I don't blame them. They know their stats are bad. When they were talking about how Nurse is not the weakest killer in the game, they know there's something wrong with those stats. So, like, if Almo truly wants those stats to mean something, which, I mean, he very clearly does. They really clearly want their stats to mean something. Like, this is the natural way to go about it. And I don't know, dude. We will see how they handle the future, okay? The first two, I will give them, you know what? Because they pleased me with this, I will give them 3 updates. 3 chapters, okay? So 3 chapters. So, what is it? So December, what is it? February, December, March, is it March? Yeah. So December, March, summer. If they don't have a serious Survivor nerf done by the summer, then I will be bitching. I will give them 3 chapters to nerf Survivor before I start bitching about this, because this pleased me so much. Okay, so this was a good update, and this gives me some optimism about the future, and it should give you some optimism too. Get in the game, get into pub matches. It is more important that you play these matches now, because if they actually mean something, don't you want your data to be in there? Especially if you think you're good at the game, like myself. I want my data to be in there, so they can get something out of it. The behavior is like your president, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to like them, but you should always be rooting for them. And by shutting them out of any attempt to make a competitive scene shows you how flawed that fundamental concept is. You have to work with these guys. They're who you got. So hopefully our bitching has finally paid off. Probably not, though. I'm getting the hell out of here. It's unlikely they're going to fix anything, but I still have this small, tiny sliver of hope that they will. I'm getting the hell out of here, lads. GG's, let me know what you think in the comments below.